been disappointing. It's been a disappointing, stretch of games. Again, March and allowing teams back into the mix, and then being passed and not beating teams that you're fighting with was the ultimate nail in our coffin, and it's very disappointing, and yeah.
Is it a little bit more, especially after the position you guys had put yourselves in going into the Four Nations break? I mean, you were within reach of third place in the Atlantic. You were that close.
Yeah, it is, and I think we lose some guys throughout the year. I get whether it's through trades or injuries, and we just didn't have an answer for that, and it's very disappointing seeing where we were and now where we're at, and that's really all I have to say. Is just how everyone in here feels the same way.
I mean, you don't want to compare and contrast, but compared to last year, does this one kind of sting a little bit more? Because it did seem like you guys were in better shape for the most part during the second half of the season and stuff, as far as the standings and everything.
No, I don't. I mean, it's different seasons, different groups. They both don't feel good. I think this one's probably more frustrating with where we were at last year and the emotion of it, and then this year we felt like we had expectations to make the playoffs, and we were in a good spot, and then we ultimately didn't make the playoffs.
How do you find purpose in this last week, in these last 3 games?
There's always something to play for in this league, and there's always someone watching. There's always an opportunity. So it's 3 games, and like I said, we had this meeting before the Tampa game. That there's always something to play for, and I couldn't agree with that messaging more. So I hope guys understand that, and we're on home ice tomorrow night, and our fans have been great, and we owe them a solid performance.
Throughout the course of the year, there were stretches where goals were tough to come by, and also stretches where you just weren't playing well enough defensively. Can you put your finger on one aspect or the other as maybe the main problem?
I mean, I can't. I mean, that's you saying those things, and I have my view. I think the penalty kill was maybe our Achilles heel all year, and other than that, we've had some great stories how we battled back from being way out of it at Christmas, and how the young guys came in, how the development of some of our young defensemen. We've won some big games, and I hope that as a young group we've learned some tough lessons and can move forward through that. And you look around the names on the stalls in this room, and there's going to be a lot of guys here that are going to be here for a long time, and those divisional games, our division's not getting any worse. Those divisional games are so important, and playing in those big games, what those points mean, especially early and late. So there's some things that we didn't do well this year. There's some stretches that we had that were disappointing, but there's also a lot of good things.
Dylan, you talked about those tough lessons. What is the most important lesson for this group to take into next year?
I mean, right now, Max, it's hard to really. It's still fresh, right? I mean, we're talking like it's the end of the season. Locker room clean-out day, and we're playing tomorrow night, and you know what? It's still fresh, so there's got to be a reflection period, I believe, and meeting with the coaches is important for individual stuff, and meeting with Steve for big picture stuff. I think those are very important to young players, and but. Like I talked to Marco a lot on faceoffs. He's really trying to get better, and I believe the only way to get better is by doing it in games, taking those big faceoffs, and I agree with that to playing in these games. The only way to do it is by playing in them, and we've played in a few, but we'd like to we'd like to be talking about going into a playoff series and finding a way to match up well against the team and for 7 games.
Just your thoughts now that it's official, last night's result on the elimination?
Well, we're out. What else can I say? We're out. We're not happy. We don't want to be there. There are different moments throughout the season that you can point to, different aspects of our play that point to being out. And that's where we are right now. So all that does is tell us we've got a lot more work to do, and we've got to get after it. We've got to, the coaches have to get more out of the players that are here, and the players have to give more when they're here. And we have to value every moment that we're in it. I don't think we did that all the time. Sometimes we just take a game for granted, even a period for granted, and it comes back to bite you. So, and then once we're all done, we'll sit down and evaluate everything from players to system structure, all that type of stuff, usage, practices, you name it. We'll turn over all the stones. It's something that we haven't done with the group. Maybe we see something different and we can shed light on it, or maybe there's things we're missing, but that'll all be done.
Is there anything, just, I know it only just happened, but you can look on at March, because that just really seemed to be the downfall. You were in such a good position going into the Four Nations, and then...
Well, I think we were in a good position going into the Four Nations until we played Tampa that game before. And we talked about that, I think, with all of us in here about the importance of that game. And it wasn't that important to us that night. I think we were down 2-0 right off the bat and 4-0 in the first period. And when you look back at it, was that the turning point? I don't know. We go into the break and come back out and we have some big games against Columbus. There were some, I think, 2 Minnesota games, Anaheim game, and then the 2 games against Columbus. We did not perform well here and lost. And we go into the outdoor game, perform fairly well and still lose. And that stung a little bit and took it a little while to recover. Didn't want to talk about the strength of schedule. Tried to pawn it off and push it off a lot, but I think I looked the other day that, since we've been here, 65 or 66% of our games have been against playoff teams, or teams that are going to make the playoffs, in my opinion. And so you got to make hay when the schedule allows you to make hay. And we failed to do that as well. But it's good for us to evaluate the teams, or the players, and the team against the best down the stretch. And so that'll be a good tool for us.
Leslie, just you touched on this Friday, but how do you find purpose now, these last 3 games this last week?
It's always something to play for. And again, I talked about the name on the back of your jersey, which hardly is ever talked about. It's always the front of the crest and play for the team and all that type of stuff. And I use the word reputation. You just don't get one in one day. You develop it, and we want to make sure that each of the individuals is developed. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I've never been blessed that much. Make sure each of the individuals is doing what they can. And the Tampa game, it was obviously very bleak for us there. They performed. They came out and they played. You could tell the spirit wasn't the same today in practice. I get it. But they got to come and work tomorrow. And I'm counting on them, and they should count on each other to do that. It'll allow us to see them in a good light, and I think that the players want to be seen that way. And if they choose to go the other route, well, I'm sure it won't be all of them, but if you're one of them, then that's how you're seen a little bit as you're packing up and leaving, and that's not a good way to leave.
This might be more toward the end of this, after the season, Todd, but as you sit there now, where would you like to see this team improved heading into next season?
Well, there's the structure of the team, and that's hard to do in the cap era and the draft and all that type of stuff. But for what we're responsible for, the on ice, the penalty kill has to get better. You can't be at 70% or 69 or whatever we're at. It doesn't matter if the power play is at 27 or 28. The offset just doesn't allow it to move ahead. You're just in neutral. So that has to get better. We've got to become better defensively overall. I think we made strides in that area, but there's still a lot of improvement. 5-on-5 game, which is both defensively and offensively, we generate chances. We just don't finish them. I think we can play a heavier game. But this is all off the top of my head real quick. We'll dig into it. We'll look at analytically. We'll look at what other teams are doing. It's what we do in the offseason.
Kind of alluded to it, but I mean, yeah, other than that Tampa game right before Four Nations, when you sit for 2.5 weeks like that, do you lose a little bit of steam right there?
Well, apparently we do, but there's a lot of teams that didn't. So I can't answer that question because I think you can just ask me about our team. There's teams that picked up steam. It was interesting going in to play against Montreal. We played against Montreal, I think, on January 23rd. And then we played them the other day. And if you take that Montreal game, that first Montreal game heading in, we had the exact same point totals. And I don't know if anybody would have thought that, but heading in, the exact same point totals from that day until we arrived in Montreal, we were equal, I think 32 points each. And after doing that, I'm going, But it takes you that long to actually move up the ladder. And, so we didn't move at all in comparison to Montreal over all of those games.
With Mrazek practicing today, are you expecting him to potentially be an option for one of
Yes.
these last three?
Yep.
And also, I guess reflecting on these last 3 or 4 months that it's been, is there any aspect of the group that, as you got to know it, sort of surprised you to learn about this team?
There's individual surprises, people that you don't know about. You're coming into a new organization. Marco Kasper's a prime example. I think I told the group in here that Albert Johansson, I didn't know who Albert was. Those types of surprises. The overall team part, not necessarily. But again, you put me on the spot. I got to really think about this, but individual surprises certainly.
You look at some of the high and low stretches. You guys would have 7-game win streaks and then rut for a while. Like, where do you build consistency, I guess, going forward out of that? I'm sure at the end of the day, it's the final point total that matters. But is there some value in kind of maybe a little more?
Well, you sure hope to run your winning streaks as long as you can. But when you start to lose more than 2 or 3 games in a row, and it's going to happen to every team. That the year that we won the Cup here in 2008, I think we had 1 win in 9 games during the season, but that was good for us. We were a much better team at that point. We needed some adversity. We couldn't just cruise through like we did the other few years. But that's an elite Stanley Cup type team that needed adversity. When you're trying just to get into the playoffs, you can't go 2, 3. Well, you can go 2, but once you hit 3, you got to really get yourself out of the ditch quick. And we can be mentally firmer upstairs in fighting our way out of that. Maintaining the positive streaks wasn't difficult for us for the most part. I think about the streak going into Alberta and Seattle. That's a difficult run, and they were challenged. And at any point there, they could have said, "You know what? We're tired." Back to back in Calgary, no, they fought through it. So the positive part, they're able to maintain. It's when it goes bad, can we dig ourselves out of the ditch quicker to stop, make it stop at 3 instead of it getting to 4 or 5, and we didn't do that down the stretch.
Just if finishing on a high, is there any value in that? And even though there's going to be changes in the off season, as far as being able to carry that momentum into next season?
Well, we're going to put the equipment on tomorrow and play in our building, so we better come to win. That's an expectation, and finishing on a high, I guess, is, if you define it as winning 3 games but playing crappy hockey, that's not a high for me. If we play 3 good, strong games, that's great. Like I said, individuals, some have had great years, incredible years, really, and finished that way. Some have been middling. We've been waiting, and then they have good games, and you know what, go out the right way and feel good about what you're going to do over the summer and come back with the right mindset. And then there's been some we've been waiting on forever. And if they just want to pack their bags up and go home and just have it end that way, well, then I think they're telling us something. But those would be the three categories of players, and ending it on a high is either individual or collective. But just winning and playing crappy hockey is, for me, won't be winning on a high.
And do you anticipate Soderblom being available at any
No.
point? No, he's done for the
No,
year?
he's likely going to be shut down, yeah.
Okay. And do you need to call anybody up, or?
No, we don't right now. No.
Like you had mentioned, the last home game of the season tomorrow, just since rejoining the organization a few months ago, just the support you felt from the fans, both here and on the road as well.
Well, it's hockey town for a reason. In coming back to Detroit and being in the community, you can feel it again. You get a sense for how important this game or sport is in the city. And I felt it when the Lions were on their run. And you could feel the passion and the tenacity. And then when they were done, it was our turn, and you could feel it for a while. Very, very loyal and craving, that opportunity to watch a series and experience a series again. There's probably new Red Wing fans that haven't had a chance to do that yet. And there's old ones that want it again. And it's our job to provide it. But very supportive. It's nice to be back here. Nobody lets us off the hook, and whatever we get, we deserve. But that's just a sign of a real good hockey market in my mind.